If you clicked on this video, I'm going to assume that you're one of the few high school students who understands the simple truth that you cannot achieve anything without discipline. Well, you're in the right place, because the summer of my freshman year, I found myself in the middle of a worldwide pandemic. And what was I doing? Well, my days looked a little like this. I would stay up late playing video games, eating cereal, watching YouTube, and then I'd wake up well into the morning. And what was the first thing that I did when I woke up? Well, I would grab my phone and I'd start watching TikTok. And then once that got boring, you'd think that I'd start my day, right? No, I took the easy option and switched to YouTube. And then after that got boring, what would I do? Well, I would keep the cycle going and I would switch to social media. And then I would go through this cycle in an endless loop. After hours of laying in my bed, I would finally go to the bathroom and then I'd started watching TikTok on the couch. And all of my days were just spent doing the easy things. But these days, things are much different. I'm one of the few seniors of my class to graduate early, and I spend my days building my discipline. Let me tell you what one of my recent days looked like. I woke up at the normal time, went through my routine, and then by 4:30, I was in the shower. And one thing about me is that I only take cold showers, and I don't switch it to warm ever. But today was different because I had just entered the coldest day of the coldest week of the year. Now, if you've taken a cold shower in the wintertime, you know that it gets cold. And I was sitting there about to start the water, just thinking to myself for a second, it's freezing as balls outside, but I'm about to hop in the shower. And I did. Put the coldest setting, and I endured through that whole shower. I quickly eat breakfast, and I put my hats and gloves on. And it's negative 30-degree wind chill. I hop on my bike, and I start biking. And then within the first couple seconds, I could feel my toes starting to freeze. Because I made the mistake to only wear 2 pairs of socks. That was not enough. I'm just trying to calm myself because I'm biking against freezing cold winds. And then I finally arrive. I had to go for sprints just to warm up. So I finish setting up the rings and I do my first set. And right after that, I have to go for another sprint because I literally can't stand still without freezing. So I had to just keep moving this whole time. Sprint, do a set. Sprint, do a set. And I just repeated that. And when I first started doing 10 sets, it was hard. And the first time I did it, I actually gave up halfway through. And then I didn't like that. So I went back and finished the set and punished myself. And this punishment became my tradition. So now I follow this tradition. After the 9th set, I always do at least 3 hill sprints. And I finish the last set shirtless. And then after that, I go and do a sprint around the block. And I just remember right before I did this, literally going to an area in the park where there was a windbreak and literally just crouching down and trying to warm up because I can feel everything freezing off. But nonetheless, I follow my tradition. I do the 3 sprints, and the moment I take off my shirt, I felt something I'd never felt before. I'd felt cold plenty of times, but this was much different. The moment I took off the shirt, it's negative 10 degrees outside with a negative 30-degree wind chill, and I can feel the wind blow onto my body. And this feeling was different than anything I'd ever felt. I could literally feel my back, my shoulders, my chest freeze into an ice cube. I started to lose mobility the moment I took off my shirt. And so I quickly throw all of my gear down, and everything seemed to go wrong because the moment I took that shirt off, panic arose because I could feel that this was different than normal cold. I was in such a rush that my gloves got stuck in the bench, but I didn't realize it at the time. So I quickly do my set, my last set, and then I run back to the bench where I put all my stuff, very quickly put my hat and my gloves back on. But like I said, I couldn't grab my gloves. They were stuck in between the bench and I was panicking. But I quickly calmed myself down and grabbed the gloves, and I just wanted to get this run over with, which is not a very long run. It's just around the block, but it was different because I go down the first street and I'm running. I'm like, okay, this is okay. I can still feel myself burning from the cold, but it was manageable. And then the moment I took that turn onto the next street, everything changed because I was running against negative 30-degree winds, shirtless, and I could feel my chest freezing into an ice cube. And I'm trying to move my shoulders around, just try to like break off the ice that's growing on my body. But my mobility is like very hampered. So I get past this street and I turn. And this is the longest street of the run. And I'm just running down. It's negative 30 degrees outside. And it's 6 in the morning. And I'm running shirtless. Still dark outside, no one's awake. I take that third turn. I felt those winds pelting my back. And then I hit that last turn and I was just trying to get back. All I could think about was getting that shirt back on. And when I pick up my shirt, I'm so numb I can barely feel it with my hands. And then I lift up my shirt to put it on and I can feel all of the vibrations going throughout my body just from putting the shirt on. And I feel relieved for about a minute. Because when you go through that type of cold and then you get back to how you were before, it's just an illusion. Because yes, my body warmed back up from those negative degree temperatures, but it only warmed back up to the 50 degrees. I still have the rest of my workout to do. So I have to take a couple seconds to de-numbify my body because I can't feel my hands. Then I finally finish my workout and it's time to bike home. And usually in these types of workouts that are cold but not as cold as this, the bike home is the most rewarding part. It's the part where my body temperature has finally risen up to a point where I'm comfortable in the cold temperature and I'm just biking home enjoying the fact that I just did a difficult thing. But not today. I didn't get that kind of salvation today because I went through a negative 30 degree wind chill workout. I was only wearing yoga pants. Those were the type of pants I was wearing. Very thin. And my legs were so numb I can barely even move. But I find the courage and I find the will inside of me to stand up and start pedaling harder. And so I'm biking against this negative 30 degree winds up a bridge. And my toes are starting to turn into ice cubes. So at this point, I only have maybe a 2 or 3 block bike ride. Not very long, just a couple minutes. But all I can think about is getting done, getting home, getting home, getting home. My body temperature has dropped dramatically. Finally get home and I hop off of my bike. The first thing I do is I feel my balls. And I noticed that I can't feel my balls in my sack anymore. Because it turned out that when I stood up, I squeezed my balls up into my body. So I had to push them back down. This is so weird. So then I quickly take off all of my gear and go into my room. And I just lay on my bed, just savoring the pain. Because just a couple weeks before this, I read a book called Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins. And there was a moment in that book that inspired me to do that. After Goggins ran 100 miles without any training, broke every bone in his body, he just laid in his bathtub, savoring the pain. So that's what I did. And after that, I go down to the basement and I start editing this video. And as if that was not enough for me, I went on a 1 hour long walk. Now this time, I learned my lesson and I bundled up a lot more. And I went on a run. So how did I get to this point? How did I get to the point where I have enough discipline to put myself through all of that? Well, I followed some pretty simple steps. Here's an editor's note. I want to say that the first thing that I actually did to improve my discipline was starting to wake up early, because it gives you a huge competitive advantage over other people when you train before school. First of all, it increases your discipline because you're waking up early. That's hard to do. And you're also going to bed early to be able to maintain that. So both of those things are hard to do, but it gives you a huge advantage during school because you've already had your morning lift in. You've already trained before everyone else. Everyone else just rolled out of bed and you have been awake for many hours already. And waking up early before school gives you more time to actually get ready, so you're actually more prepared for the day. And it slowly starts to change your mindset because now you're starting to become different. You're the only one going to the gym before school, and so you start to become different and you start to see yourself differently from everyone else. And then as a result, you start treating yourself differently from everyone else, and you start holding yourself to a higher standard than everyone else. Okay, back to the video. The first thing that I did was I got very consistent in my workout routine. So I would go to the gym every single day, except for rest days, and I would bike there. And biking to the gym built my discipline because on days when I didn't want to bike to the gym, I did it anyways because I took advantage of the bad weather. On those days, not very many people want to go to the gym, much less bike to the gym. But I taught myself to love biking through bad weather. Every time I'd bike during the rain or the snow or sleet, I would just say, man, I love this. This is what I'm built for. And then another thing that I did to increase my discipline was train a lot. During one of my summers, I was training very hard because I wanted to make the soccer team. And so I would go to the gym in the morning and then I would go train soccer after that. And just this built my discipline a lot because I would just be doing hard things all the time. I'd just be exercising all the time. But another thing that I implemented was cold exposure. Around this time is when I started looking into recovery because you can't be exercising that much unless you have very good recovery. And I started taking ice baths, which is very good for your discipline. And then I also started taking cold showers. I was not disciplined enough to put myself through an entire cold shower. So what I would do was I would start the shower cold, and then I would take my shower warm, and then I would end it cold. And then eventually I reached a point where that was not enough. And so around this time I read a book called The Unplugged Alpha, and in it there was one sentence that he was talking about this. He said the simplest way to build your discipline is through cold showers. And I realized that I was flawed in my thinking that taking a cold shower but also having warm water in that shower was good enough for my discipline. No, it was not. And so after that, I changed my identity to someone that only takes cold showers and it's never warm. And it's been almost a year since that identity shift, and I definitely think that that's one of the biggest things that I've done to improve my discipline. Only taking cold showers and never switching it to warm. Now, obviously, there were a few days where I accepted myself from this rule, but I can count those days on one hand. And another thing that I did to increase my discipline was starting to sleep on the floor. But that wasn't the reason why I started that. And I talked about it in this video. So if you're interested in that, go check it out. And finally, one of the most recent changes that I made to increase my discipline was buying gymnastics rings and setting them up at my park for my workout instead of going to the gym, because it is much more difficult to work out outside in sub-zero temperatures than it is to work out inside of a heated gym. Back to the editor's note. So to recap, some of the most important changes that I made over the past couple of years are waking up early, being consistent in my workouts, biking, training a lot, cold exposure, sleeping on the floor, and training outside.